because otherwise. So good evening and welcome to the Finance and General Purposes Committee on the 13th of October. So we will start first with public question time. So Martin Slade, I believe that's yourself. Yeah, roughly there will be absolutely fine. So I will let you start and I'll give you a minute warning if that's helpful.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you for starting to improve openness and transparency in documentation and decision-making within Weston Town Council. However, as you're aware, this year's AGAR process and ongoing discussions with the external auditor has raised some number of concerns. Currently, we can find no public terms of reference or meeting notes for the former anti-racism group or champion over the last 2 years. We welcome today's report from the anti-racism champion. However, it continues to highlight issues. The report states what has been done by the champion, but there are no notes or agreements documenting what was discussed or agreed in Weston Town Council's name on behalf of residents. We have concerns about the proposed meeting with Race Equality North Somerset regarding the next steps for uniting our town. What will be recommended, and when is Weston Town Council going to address the concerns raised by the public consultation? As you will be aware, RENS as an organisation has stated in emails to councils, schools and colleges, as well as petitions regarding attacks on migrants, that this is impacting everybody who is not white. I'm aware that some residents, including some white Eastern European migrants in Weston, find these types of statements racist. Furthermore, these types of statements by Weston Town Council's partner organisation have not been publicly addressed, yet it appears that RENS is still to be an advisor. How many councillors here are aware of the 2022 41-page document, Time for Change, developing an anti-racism strategy for Weston, and have read it? This document was led by RENS on behalf of North Somerset Council. It was researched and authored by Alison Bancroft, a friend of RWNS, who spoke in favour of Council of Sanctuary at both council meetings. She publicly stated on local TV that the decision not to become a Council of Sanctuary is affecting anyone who isn't white. This document recommends create a disequilibrium state, including surface conflict. Disequilibrium is defined as a state of imbalance, disruption in harmonious relationship structures or norms that usually provide order and predictability. That can manifest as protests, social struggles, or breakdown in cooperation. Why would the council want to create a disequilibrium and destabilise our community as seen recently? Can you confirm if Weston Town Council took the unusual approach to pay £2,000 for security for the Council of Sanctuary public meetings? What is Weston Town Council's policy on when to call for security to a public meeting, especially when North Somerset Council and REN's first focus point in here is to cause disequilibrium in respect to race relations? The Time for Change document refers to a Weston Town Council working group, in particular 2 formal meetings with written and agreed meeting notes. However, we cannot find if this information went to council prior to this document being published. We do not know what was discussed and agreed on our behalf. Please make copies of the stated meeting notes publicly available. As I hope you will agree, the champion's view of joining the Council of Sanctuary was not the same as the public's. The champion indicates that they have now undertaken Council of Sanctuary training on responding to hostility, and then training for town and parish councils. What is the content of this training? Why is it coming from a race relations charity and not a government body in relation to handling public disagreement with the council's approach? How inclusive and non-biased is the training? And what is town council's approach to responding to hostility, especially following this training? You and your fellow councillors have a great opportunity to use the information that was gathered over the previous 6 months during the process to better address public concerns. This situation is not black and white, and public debate should focus on the Nolan principles such as openness and transparency. Thank you very much, Richard.
Well timed. That was 4 minutes, 5 seconds. I was about to say you had an extra minute, but That's fine. Thank you, Martin. We'll pick those up and respond direct to you because I think bits of those are FOIs
Can you
and stuff.
send it? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank
I
you.
did make notes, but it would be useful if I did.
Yeah, if you could send them to Sarah, there are some notes, but just so we can answer all of those. Thank you very much. Apologies for absences and substitution. So I have Councillor Armstrong covering for Councillor Mark Cranford. I have Councillor Martin Williams. We've got two Councillor Williams in the room today. Councillor Martin Williams covering substitute for Lisa Pilgrim, and Councillor Owen James covering and subbing for Councillor Helen Thornton. And Councillor Catherine Gibbons is present because you're the going to speak to, I think, the Armed Forces.
The Armed Forces champion.
Yeah, so that's what you're.
Nothing less to do, as Pete says.
That's what you're here for.
I'm the Armed Forces champion.
And there's no apologies, I've caught everyone who's substituted. Excellent, thank you very much. So declarations of interest.
Yeah, yes, before I start, can I say I'd like to thank everybody that's contacted me regarding the accident that Anne had, and the fact she's now home and improving, but thank everybody that contacted me over the time.
And we're glad to hear she's feeling better, so thank you for that. Any declarations of interest? No? Okay, so the next agenda item is to approve the minutes of the Special Finance and General Purpose Committee on the 18th of August. You'll find it pages 1 to 10 if you're looking in your bundle. Any inaccuracies on that?
Move approval.
So Councillor Cruz happy to propose. I'm happy to second. All those in favour of those? Excellent, that's clearly carried. That's fine. Okay, so the next kind of group of notes are for noting. So the first ones to note are the minutes or notes from the Civic Matters Consultation Group held on the 4th of September. You'll find them page 11 to 16. For those of you who are not sure what that is, I call it the Mayor's Committee. I know that's not its technical term, but it does all the civic matters. Any questions or observations on that?
Do we have a picture of the ribbon?
The purple one?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think we do.
So we haven't got a picture of it. We've got, so that I think it isn't actually purple, is it?
Oh, sorry, it's me.
It's blue.
Of course, that's the line
There
stuff,
was one
sorry.
ordered before,
Okay.
but we have a choice of two. Because we have one made, but there is one that has been bought in previous years for it.
Okay.
I don't, but I can get Rebecca to take them and send it to you.
Yes, please. It's just I've seen other mayoral ribbons and they look quite nice. So
This is from a civic, what they called in London, who am I thinking of? Is it Michael's?
Yeah.
Yeah,
St. Michael's.
Michael's Road. They all-
The official supply.
So this is because, just for context, we've got to the limit of chains on the mayoress's pendant and what's the male version? Consort. So we're just going to use a ribbon-like thing instead, rather than new chains. That's the summary, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't make that means apologies. Okay, so any other observations on that one? No? And then you've got the health and safety meetings. This is both July and August, again for noting, pages 17 to 22. Any observations or questions on those?
Okay, fine.
No. Okay. That was just for noting. There's a bit of a theme here. This next one, item 6, is also for noting. So, kind of our champions where they don't fall anywhere fall within Finance and General Purposes Committee, and they give a regular report. We had one last time. I think this is probably too regular. But just to say, Caroline's report is in there as the council's anti-racism champion. It's for noting, of course, but any observations, any questions? I don't think we envisage this being every meeting, just to say. But it's up to Caroline, but I don't think it's every meeting is intending an update to come. So in that case, Councillor Catherine Gibbons, you're the Armed Forces champion, and next on the agenda is a verbal report from yourself. And then I'm mindful we fall straight into discussing the Armed Forces Covenant. So
Yes.
when the magical segue happens, I'll cut in, do that segue, and then we'll carry on. I'll hand to you for the update from the Armed Forces champion.
Okay, so I will supply you with a written version, but I'll give you a rough idea of what sort of things they've been doing. Obviously, I attended the D-Day celebrations, the commemorations, I should say, for to set up with the local MP there. I also attended Parliament, where I was invited to meet the Veterans Minister, Al Cairns, and we had a full day where we were talking about the developments that the government planned for the Armed Forces Covenant to be passed into full law, rather than merely being something that we think is nice to sign up to because we feel. So I've also had a lot of work with the Department for Education in terms of helping schools and MATs, that's multi-academy trusts, understand their obligations within the Armed Forces Covenant. That relates to how you ensure that service families and their children don't experience unnecessary disruption to their education. In addition to that, I've had quite a lot of nice things to do. I recently visited AREME, which is the Royal Engineering and Electrical and Mechanical Engineering Training Centre, MOD Rhino, spent the day there, meeting the young people who are training up to do what I have to confess I had never realised, but is one of the most important functions within our armed services. And that's those people who maintain all the equipment. You can't very well be a defence force if you haven't got well-maintained equipment. And they are the most decorated service across all our armed forces, because they tend to have to go into very dangerous places and recover equipment. And they are effectively sitting ducks. You know, if you're in one of these big tank-like things and you're dragging something out of a mortar shell hole, you are a sitting duck. And that's why so many of these service people have received decorations for labor. After that, I've also attended on our behalf the awards given by the Wessex Cadet Force. Unfortunately, there wasn't anybody from Weston who received an award this year, but there was one of our cadet force, I think, commanders in Nailsea who received an award, and a number of young people as well from across the Wessex area. And coming up to Remembrance Day and all that entails, I will be attending the poppy train with the wreath on behalf of both councils at 7:45 AM on the 11th of November. I'm handing that over. I'll be doing my bit at the various services that we have. And the key thing that I am doing, I do chair the Armed Forces Covenant Board for North Somerset, and I also sit on the Wessex Armed Forces Covenant Board. And one of our aims is to make sure that our towns and parishes are fully participating in the Armed Forces Covenant network and doing everything they can to support our armed forces families, veterans, and cadet forces, which is the segue into the next bit.
Perfect. Any questions on that before I segue beautifully to the Armed Forces Covenant?
No, just say, Chair, I had a cousin that served 20 years in Reading.
Bravo. Really incredible record. I'm so impressed. And so impressed by, I have to say, the young people there. They take people from age 16 onwards. They don't have to have any qualifications, and yet they will come out of it with city and guilds qualifications as well as the military ones. And they seem so very, very committed and proud of what they were doing. I was really impressed.
And just to move us then to that agenda item. So agenda item 8 is the Armed Forces Covenant. You'll find it at page 24 to 29. If I was to try and summarise it, I suppose, we've been a signatory of the Armed Forces Covenant with North Somerset, but obviously there's a position now to move it exclusively to our own authority, i.e. us as a parish. Yes, please, in a nutshell.
Yep.
So that would mean we'd need to sign up to the Armed Forces Covenant ourselves, and the governance structure for that is very similar to normal. F&GP makes a recommendation, full council makes a decision. So we are today at the recommendation point. Catherine, I know you know, sorry, Councillor Gibbon, there's a habit, knows a lot about this. Do you want to add anything context-wise or anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. As you said, I mean, we have been a sort of co-signatory piggybacking onto North Somerset's agreement, but there's plenty of precedent for town councils, and I think we've used Taunton as a template to have their own version of the covenant, which is more tailored to what you're actually able to achieve in terms of being a gold employer, for example. You know, the town council could achieve that because given the size of its operation, that will be tailored to its needs. But there are other things that aren't within our realm of work. We've got people schools, hospitals to enforce or support them in their aims. So from that point of view, given the size of North Somerset and Weston within North Somerset, and the fact that Weston has a significant military history that I think it's important that we remember, I feel it's the right time for us to sign or go through the process of making something of the fact that we are, as a town council, committing to this. And on that, I had suggested to officers in our last meeting that we would have an exhibition at the museum, which I believe is proceeding, just highlighting Weston's military history, asking members of the public and military organisations in the area to supply photographs. And if we can tailor that to fit in with when we do an official signing, should you recommend doing so, then I think this will make a very nice event for the town in the month of remembrance.
Thank you. And just to summarise what the recommendation is in paper, then we'll go for a discussion. So the recommendation is that FNGP recommends to full council that Weston-super-Mare Town Council adopts its own Armed Forces Covenant, that the town clerk, i.e. chief exec, authorise the final wording of it, and that the arrangements be made for a formal signing ceremony. Effectively, that is what will go to full council, right? That's the recommendation. But of course, we need to send it there. So I'm quite happy to open up for discussion and stuff before we sort of.
Just one tiny point, page 27. Is that Armed Forces Covenant emblem up to date? It's the Queen's crown rather than the King's crown.
We will check it.
Then clearly we need to update it.
I don't know how someone can notice that. That's impressive.
It was the same at Reading, I have to say. That was the MOD.
Councillor Crew?
Well, I wish a couple of things, but John just picked up what I was going to say as well. John, I'm amazed at still the number of people that don't know the history that we do make something of, you say.
Yeah.
Because when we had RAF blocking now, we had RAF Freedom of the Town. We've got Force Commando Freedom of the Town. And of course, we've got Tide Force, which of course is tied into Weston. It's on the bridge of the ship itself. It's Weston-super-Mare, and certainly when we visited that, it was well received, and we had quite a good time there. So a lot of people don't realise it. We've been connected with all three armed services over the years.
Councillor Payne.
Just a couple of questions, if I may. On section 1, in principles of the Armed Forces Covenant, it says that in some circumstances, special treatment may be appropriate. I find that's a little bit vague in that it doesn't specify what some circumstances would be, and it doesn't specify what the special treatment would be. But given that this could potentially be significant cost for the town council, would it be the case that anything that comes under this would actually come to the council or to a committee before any decision on that is taken?
So my working assumption, and I'll have you charge anything that has a budgetary implication would likely have to come back. Because effectively what you're signing up to is the principles, not how you deliver those principles, if that makes sense. I'm right on that?
Yeah, no,
That's fine.
And that it would be for the council to decide if they wanted, for example, to give a discount on things that had a cost, like, I don't know, the cafe in the museum. You might want to say 10% discount for veterans, but that would have to be a separate decision.
Okay.
So that's really,
And that of course opens up all sorts of issues. If you give reductions to members of the armed services, what about the emergency services? What about nurses and doctors? What about, and you end up never being able to solve that one.
we probably wouldn't do that, but.
We've been through it before.
So you're gonna hate me, we already have there's already a discount at the museum for armed forces
and emergency.
and emergency services. So that won't go to committee because it's previously been.
The other question I've got, under section 2, under the veterans reservists, it says supporting employees who are members of the reserve forces, etc.
Yeah.
You think we should include members of the council in that as well? Because
Yes.
members of the council could be reservists, and I know it's
Yeah.
a similar situation as there is in Bristol, but the council has been, there's that time when people are being called up.
I would say volunteers or councils. It would be the way to solve that.
But map that into
But that
the,
is a key part of the covenant,
Mhm.
actually, is that you do recognise and accept that a reservist needed to serve.
Any other observations, and then we'll go to the actual vote and recommendations. Okay, so we've picked up those notes which can be corrected before they go to full council, but fundamentally, F and GP needs to recommend this to full council. So the recommendation, I'm happy to propose it, is we recommend to full council that Weston-super-Mare Town Council adopts its own armed forces covenant, reflecting its continuing commitment to the armed forces community, that the town clerk / chief exec be authorised to finalise the wording of the covenant in consultation with the chair of the council, so that's the mayor, isn't it, in that case, and relevant partners, and that arrangement's been made for the formal signing with local armed forces representative and community stakeholders. So that's the recommendation to go to full council. So I had to propose, but I require a seconder.
And the signing will be by the mayor.
Yes, I would imagine so. I'm not turning up and doing it. Councillor Crew, that's fine. All those in favour? Okay, that's clearly carried. So that will go to the next appropriate full council. My guess would be November. It'll go to November. That's fine. Excellent. But you don't have to stay the whole time, by the way, Catherine. You can go if you would like.
What thrills are on the agenda?
We're about to move to finance. I'm also mindful you came here in your capacity as champion, so you are welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to go. There's no issue there. Okay, so we're on the finance portion of this now. So the first one, agenda item 9, is the monthly finance reports. These are broken into 2 stages: for approval and for noting. We'll do the for approval first, because obviously that requires a decision, and then we'll do the for noting all together. So on page 30, you'll find the schedule of unapproved expenditure. Let's quickly get to 30. Page 30, which is 464, 355, and 33p in a nutshell. Any questions or observations before we approve or otherwise? No? Okay, I'm happy to propose that, but I require a seconder to approve the expenditures. Councillor Jill Butte, all those in favour of approving the unapproved expenditures? Thank you. So the next sections are noting. I usually put all these together unless someone tells me they don't want that to happen. So we've got bank reconciliations, budget control, bank interest, receipted income, bad debt, and there's a specific write-off request on bad debt.
so that one's exception to noting.
That's an exception, that's an approval then.
It's an exception.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. We'll put bad debt last. So if we do all the for noting, which is bank reconciliation, bank control report, bank interest rate, receipted income, and overspend report, and then we'll come back to the bad debt. So any questions, observations on any of those to noting? Councillor Crew.
It's worth noting the success of the museum cafe and the shop. When you look at the budget on museum cafe for income, it's 83,000 for the year, and month 5 we're on nearly 47,000, which I think is excellent, and the shop one is even better than forecast.
Yeah,
I think that's something which is positive. Many people moan about the museum at times, it costs and everything, but I think that just shows that, as we've said, especially John and I, when we first started on it, that after 5 or 6 years, we will start to see the benefits.
so there was a general point, we can pass on, thanks.
Yeah.
So that's it, because I know they've worked really hard. Some of that, I go there all the time with my daughter, so maybe I'm the reason it's in profit, who knows?
There you are.
Any other observations or questions? No? Has everyone happy I did that all in one big one? There was no specific bits that we needed to fill out? No?
Just one more, John, you were again at the water park, He's doing very well this year. Considering when it was franchised before, when you look at what we got from the person, the rent we had compared to what we get now. It was a good move when it was paid recommendation, and I think it was the right way to go.
All looks positive then. So one of the four notices is actually a for approval, so in the minutes we'll make that clear, but that is a bad debt report, i.e. there's some outstanding balances and it's understanding ordinances are, sorry, some financial regulations. We are the committee that decides what to do with them. So you'll find this at page 73, but in a nutshell, there are three bad debts. One Blues Bar, one's Hiley House, and one Sand Bay Fish and Chip Shop, all for varying reasons. You can see those in the report. And effectively, you have two options. One, you enforce, two, you write off. That's effectively your two options. That's only the two options in reality. Any questions on those before we come to a decision? No, if you look for context, obviously one of them was a miscommunication. So to be honest, it's not really a debt, I'd argue, but and the others, they've been closed as a fire and stuff. So again, I'd argue.
So we get to the point where you're chasing your tail, which is one that costs us more, then we'll recover. So I think we just wrote them off.
What was the one by fire?
Sand Bay Fish and Chip Shop.
When did that? A year ago.
Yeah, about a year ago.
Yeah, so there's a delay before it comes to us because you try all your informal mechanisms before you get here. So
Right.
it was from 21st of October last year.
So are they open again now?
I think so.
They are back open.
They would like it, they'll be targeted again with a new package, so
Yeah, no, I read that, but it didn't actually say that that was them, and would they've opened since?
I've no idea, unfortunately.
For a long time, we couldn't get a lot.
Hot.
Is it,
Very funny.
is it fair to say that because they were closed, they didn't really benefit from
Correct, yeah. Yeah. Right, I would be uncomfortable to enforce something in that situation, and it's £200.
Yeah.
They didn't receive a service. You could argue force majeure. Let's not argue that.
What highly, so if you said, so they've suggested that they expressed intent to cancel, so was it cancelled? Is it cancelled? And that's an end of it?
So the reason it's come here, as my understanding, I'll be challenged on that, is effectively they said we asked to cancel, but it's carried on rolling, so the assumption is that we
So
didn't
they're
action
still
that
carrying on racking up money?
incorrectly. That's the working assumption.
I think it's around the notice period required, so they cancelled without giving the full notice period, but they're not gonna pay it. So we can take it to claims and which will cost more than that particular debt is likely to go.
So I know, so they're not on the website, they're not in, anything like that?
No,
Oh,
no,
well,
check this
so
out.
it's all under a stop.
Yeah, they will get taken off the record. I'm just good for a decision then, unless there's anything else. I think we do write these off because I think that's reasonable in these circumstances because it's just not efficient for bring costs as someone who does a lot of small claims.
Yeah.
I'm happy to propose that.
Second.
Hit Crew will second it. All those in favour of writing those off? Obviously mindful of the Sand Bay technically is a slightly different situation. But yeah, that's fine. Okay, thank you. That's all of the monthly finance reports, July and August. So that leaves us now on to the review, item 10, review of the effectiveness of the internal auditor. That's page 77 to 80, but just to give some context on this. This was previously an item, I can't remember which one, but our pack in June, but our pack didn't have the full details in it. So effectively we made a decision. But today that's why it is on here to make that decision. So you'll see from page 77 down to 80 is kind of our summary of the effectiveness and the reason that we're making that recommendation. I'm just trying to find the recommendation. Yeah, effectively, we just need to approve that effectiveness report, and it would be me as the chair of this committee, I assume, that would sign that. So you can find the bulk of it in the table, which is 78 and 79. That's the bulk of where you find it.
You can sign them.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's fine. I'm committed to sign it. Doesn't need to be done today. Oh, it is here to sign. Okay. Any questions on that? Otherwise, I'll push us to a recommendation.
Nothing straightforward.
So I'm happy to approve that. If I can have a seconder, Peter Crew, all those in favour of approving the effectiveness report into the auditor, internal audit, I should say. Thank you. I'll sign that today then if it's late. We may as well come over and do that then all at once. Thank you, everybody. So we now move to agenda item 11, which is the final internal audit report for the year 24-25. You'll find it at 81 to 93. There's been various things that have been looked into around corporate governance, budgetary controls, reserves, review of income, investment and loans. You'll see the full report. I'm not going to go through every element of it. There is no decision in this, is there? Is this for noting? Hold on, let me just check. Is this for noting? I was about to say, yeah, improve internal audit reports because they tell you what they think of you. Any questions on the internal audit?
No, just a comment, Chairman, every time the auditor does this, and if they pick up anything that they think should be done slightly differently, our officers have always followed through and done just that.
I think that the things they picked up from what I can tell are fairly minor, like increasing our limit for when we do a tender from 25 to 30,000.
Yeah.
Which has been changed. And the other one, I wrote this down, that's now really annoying, was interest, and whether we can get greater interest by moving our money into a different bank, which I know is on the agenda item in a minute. We all happy with that? Okay, so that's obviously last year's, and then obviously there'll be another one in the future for this year. Okay, thank you for that. Beautiful segue. Obviously, one of the recommendations from the internal audit report is to find ways to better invest our funds, which magically brings us on to agenda item 12, which is about investment of council funds. Helen, do you want to give us a summary of this?
Yeah, so currently we have current accounts with Lloyds Bank, Santander and NatWest, and we've not been able to get access to those accounts also to look and move money around for the best to get the best interest. So we've put a paper together to sort of recommend what we think should be done next. So these funds could have the second part of the pre-set in September. So we have quite a tranche of money sat in the current account, not gaining any interest. So we've looked at the available possibilities that we've got with our current investment portfolio, the CCLA, plus nationwide account, plus another Lloyds investment account. We're going to start to now look at the cash flow and move it around to gain the best interest we can over the rest of this financial year, and then the investment strategy again and start moving these funds around so we've got them in a timely manner. We only have to hold for 4 months worth of value of our creditors, so you're talking probably 1.2 in a bank account just to be on the safe side. And anything else we would look to move around, we put an investment and gain some interest.
So interest rates are mixed, of course, depending where we go, but looking to this paper, they're around 3.5 to 3.95, depending where you go. Is that where we're at?
The only thing I was going to add to that is it's a nationwide difficulty in town and parish councils having access to banking arrangements and trying to get hold of the bank in the way that is that NAP is bringing it up, the SLCC are bringing it up. It's not just us, that those of you that are signatories and have tried to aid us getting these things set up. It's an absolute nightmare. So there has been some delays through, but no fault of our own. It's worth noting. But as I said, NAP and the SLCC are looking to bring it up. In the meantime, we'll do what we can with what we've got.
Yeah, that's fine. And just I suppose for our context, then in theory, moving it to these accounts are, I suppose, the lower interest, the more higher interest would be longer term, more capped ability to withdraw it. Is that effectively?
Yeah, the long term.
So that's adjustment, flexibility or long term. Okay.
I think your Treasury report, the current investment strategy is only for short term.
Yeah.
So Helen's bringing that back to a new meeting, and you'll have that opportunity to look at longer term investments. In the past, the council decided not to utilise that.
So that's
your choice.
Yes, that's just put it on your radar then. So our current investment strategy means we've got to do more short, medium term investments. You may want to change that in the future when it comes back. You may not. You might not. It's a level of risk, right? You've got to make that judgment.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm happy to propose then that we start to move some of that money into those interest accounts that we mentioned here, as you've outlined in the papers. Councillor Payne is happy to second that. I should have asked any questions. I don't think it was. All those in favour? Good, thank you. Right, so I'm going to explain this next one. So budget setting considerations, agenda item 13. You'll find it pages 99 to 111. just to give you some context, because I know not everyone was on this committee at the same time. So we, in December is when Finance and General Purposes recommend the budget, no, well, it's when the budget recommendation comes back to us to talk about and recommend and change and do what you will. So I'm just going to pass these around to councillors, so I can't do two things at once. I'll explain what that is in a minute. So the process, if you're working backwards, is you would start to go out to committees and you would say to committees, budget's coming up soon, what are your thoughts? All right, so that is the stage we are at now. Other committees have already gone and started to suggest theirs. We've still got amenities to go and we've still got environment and planning to go. And tonight, specifically from pages 99 to 111, are those groups that report to F&GP that we have budget oversight of. This is our opportunity to look at those effectively. And then in November, it goes out for public engagement, and then you know the rest because you're very used to it. At the previous F&GP, we talked about what are the what's our direction we will give as a committee, and effectively the direction we gave was we want to look at two budget options: one, standstill budget, i.e. no increase, and two, a CPI-based increase. That was 3.8% if you look at it from August 2025. So what you have in front of you, this is based on the current budget, just to be clear. It's not all of the recommendations that people have made because we're not there yet. It looks at the current budget. So the yellow one is CPI. Yeah, the green one is budget standstill. So that's just to give you some context. But that is obviously for budget setting. We are now at a space of, is there anything that reports to this committee that we wish to take a look at before all that is done? And you'll see that, as I've said, pages 99 to 111.
But can you just clarify?
Of course.
When you say increase by CPI, are you talking about a budget reset?
The budget. The budget. Obviously so it's the budget, but they're quite close together. But yeah, it's the budget engine.
Okay.
So this will also include, just with transparency, where there's been some unspent or budget savings and headings have changed. So it's not strictly like for like, but that's also based on this year's. This includes nothing that's come from any other committees. It does not include anything in the papers currently. So that's the
It
caveat.
does include if there has been recommendations, the amenities have already had one set of things, so that is included.
Okay, but not planning environment and not here.
Not the second lot of amenities.
And we've got the biggest budget, so yeah, it's ultimately. So do you want to give any more context, Helen, or have I butchered that enough?
I think it's very much me.
Yeah.
That will be considered after this meeting and then brought that to part of the process and just have to plan it up in December.
So December, yeah, and that's enough time for planning to do there. So if I had to press you all, I suppose, if you're looking at pages 99 to 111, you're particularly looking at the appendices, which start from page 101. These are all the things that report to us. No other committee sees, well, they do see them, but they don't get a say over them. Is there anything on there you're like, we need to look at that? Or actually, I'm uncomfortable with that? Because that would be really helpful. Just to underline, what is in here, I do know, is the investment to try and make our papers a bit better now with the size we are, i.e. modern gov and all more digital based those, because as you'll see, as the public will see, it's a bit of a nightmare navigating our size at the moment without any proper democratic system to do so. So you will see that is in the budget, just to be transparent on that.
I think only one thing to add, Chair, your capital project. So this is reflective of your currently adopted medium-term financial plan, which recognised last year the need of some of your assets for further capital investment. We've been going along with planned maintenance, reactive maintenance, but there's considerable hits that come in, especially with regard to the cemetery.
Yeah.
So the committee will recall that they asked us to monitor one particular section of wall in Cape section. It's where the cemetery splits level from the original cemetery in Arboretum down into past the engine shed. That wall has now got to a point where it does need to be repaired. So we've monitored it for a period, I think, it's maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
It's quite a substantial wall. It's a retaining wall. It's got trees above it and graves above and below it. So those costs are coming in quite high. We've still got to do the procurement on it, but the QS costs are indicative between anywhere between 60 and £100,000. So you might be looking at those reserves thinking that's a lot of money. This is stuff that you've been monitoring that now is going to need a decision on it. So people do have the graves and deeds to those graves, so it's not a case of simply doing nothing, because there might be consequences that we do look at if you were to decide to do nothing. So yeah, that's the only thing from me on those capital elements.
Yeah, you want to do that with dignity, and obviously it comes at a price.
No, Sharon, I've gone through everything, and the difference is well within what we expect. I think it's quite a good job and quite clear. I will make one
That's already
which
good.
is, one comment which is a bit of a funny, because on here we've got the rental of boilers. And I have to say that one of the frustrations at Weston Hospital while we were there is cost of coffee, which is brilliant, but because their boiler broke down, they couldn't serve coffee. So for the 10 days,
So it just cost
for the 10 days I was going in and out of the hospital, whenever Catherine was there, I was okay, because they do fancy ones, they couldn't do Americano, drinks. Yeah, sorry, we can't do coffee.
Coffee shop without coffee is nothing more than just a shop. Any other comments or observations? I'm getting a general vibe. Councillor Charlie Williams.
What's in the street furniture expenditure? I was just wondering why it's over £200,000.
It's not a single bench. That's
Yeah.
what I think Charlie's getting at.
So we've gone, catching signs, that's a project that was being looked into over a 3-year period of time, that was being involved in industry, and director, for his roles, Councillor of North Somerset. Sims, and also street cleaning budget, bus shelters and those sort of things. That's one of the ones that possibly need to go to, a ministry for review as well.
What do you think is the biggest spend in that? That eats the most?
So you've got the town council signs,
So
yeah.
So that's a replacement programme of all the town council signs in these areas, which we are now working on. That will be done before the end of this year, but it's ongoing.
And it'll fall into amenities as
It'll
well.
fall into amenities,
and it's just saying town council.
No, it's about the play area signage and the safety
Right.
signage, about how you use a play area and how they need to be. They've been there, some of them for since as long as I've been here, 19 years, and they're a better way to explain how to operate with children now, as you've seen with play areas such as House of Action and Water Park. So it's bringing some of our other concepts in the standard signage.
Any other observations?
Yeah, one thing is it's bus shelters. Unfortunately, because Faye was not here, I guess they were trying to contact Faye, but North Somerset spoke to me a couple of weeks ago. Because well, I was on holiday, but they spoke to me anyway. They're looking at our bus shelters and see whether we think any of those are suitable for advertising, which of course would bring us an income. So I've suggested, or I will suggest that, who's the best person to put them on to? You.
Yeah, if you send that to Sarah.
Okay, so I'll speak to Kim about that, yeah.
Any
The only
other,
reason I know it well on holiday is because it's my niece, so it's.
any other observations? Otherwise, I'll push us to recommend, because I think the budget will actually come back. This is just the bits that fall within our purview. No?
It is conclusion in principle.
Yeah. Okay, so just recommend in principle, we're okay with what's been outlined in those appendices, and obviously it will return with everybody else's suggestions. And after public engagement, it will come back around December, I think. So I'm happy to propose what's in here is what we're happy with the direction of travel for this committee's oversight. Do I have a seconder on that?
Yep.
That's
I have.
approved. All those in favour of that? Thank you. Although I'm not even sure that was a vote I was supposed to do. It's to receive report, which is probably for noting, but anyway, you've got an assurance there. Okay, we're on governance. This one, for those of you who were on this 2 cycles ago, we had the twinning strategic plan, so this is returned. I think there's been some amendments, and this is our twinning with Hildesheim. And there's several mayors and former mayors in the room, so be more than aware of our relationship with Hildesheim. It's pages 112 to 118, and in a nutshell, the recommendation is to approve that policy. That's basically what it is in a nutshell.
Just say it's been through a start and finish group, which started and finished.
Excellent. I always like to start finish group that finishes.
And we went through, and we worked with colleagues in Hildesheim to get to this point in draft.
So they support this in principle in Hildesheim. Okay, well, it'd be a bit hard to argue at this point when it's a twinning document.
They were happy to with the contents of it, and they aligned with their strategy, so that they were very receptive of it and welcoming of it. Actually, to have something in place which was it was about start this year.
As a chair of the start finish group, then would you like to?
And they didn't pick up the English spelling mistake on page 118. It's a college, it's not a collage. We're not selling pictures to them.
That's always up for debate as to whether it was a collage.
So as the chair of the start finish group, I don't know if anyone else was on the start finish group. I think you might be, Catherine, as well. Are you quite supportive of this document? You're quite happy with it?
Yeah, we've got start and finish group, so it's gosh, very well.
Well, then, do you want to propose it, John, to be adopted?
Happy to, yes.
You're not on the committee today, so
second it.
I'll second it. That's fine. All those in favour of that adopting the twinning strategy? Thank you. That's clearly carried. I was really mindful when I finish this an hour early. So agenda item 50. So this is this happens actually every one of these meetings now, doesn't it? So this committee obviously approves the sealing of documents, legal documents. So in this case, it's the agreement between Weston-super-Mare Town Council and Weston-super-Mare Allotment Club. Because they've signed it, obviously we now need to officially seal it our side. Signatory wise, do you need some names, or is this, you do need names? Okay. Is it one or two? It's two. Okay, so in this document you will see the allotment agreement between us and the allotment club.
Yeah.
So there's two things we need from you. Oh, is it? What's it say?
It smells double N in it.
Double L and not allotment.
No, apology.
We can correct that. That's just yeah, that's fine. That's just the front page. So there's two things I need from you. One is we need to approve the sealing of this, and two, I need two councillors' names to be the signatories. So I have two things from you. So firstly, if we could approve the sealing of it. Actually, no, tell a lie, let's not do that. Let's find two nominees first, and we'll do it all at once. Are you around, Councillor Charlie, to sign? Councillor Crew?
We can be, yes.
You around?
I love Councillor Charles.
It's just easier than Charles William. Okay, so there's.
Don't call you proper Charlie.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's two councillors there. Are we happy to approve the sealing of this document and that Councillor Charlie Williams and Councillor Peter Crew are the signatories on this? So I can propose, if I can have a seconder, Councillor John Crawford Hawley, all those in favour? That is clearly done and clearly carried. And Sarah will get in touch when there's a time to sign it. Because there's an official stamp, isn't it?
There is.
Yeah. We finished this meeting at 7:50.
Excellent.
Can I just check, like, the pace is okay, you feel like you're having time to go through things? I mean, you get all the stuff in advance, you can't say no, really. No. Okay, I'm just mindful of the speed. As a member of the public, is the speed okay? Yeah, excellent clarity. Well, I will let you all go then. So meeting closed at 7:51.
Thanks very much. There's a few bits.
Yeah, so I need to sign stuff, don't I? And do we stop recording on that, or does it?
Oh, right.
It's magic.
There's all these different.